There is a reason the deepest parts of your life are called personal. What is personal is not meant to be public property. In a generation that is obsessed with exposure, you must learn to master the art of preservation. The sacred is not meant for the careless. Not everything about your life is supposed to be shared. Not everything about your journey deserves an audience. Some things are not secret because they are shameful. They are secret because they are sacred. You don't protect things because they are broken. You protect them because they are valuable. The world teaches you to post every win, record every move, speak every emotion, and confess every moment to people who have no commitment to your development. But when you speak from an unguarded heart, you give access to people who may admire you today and assassinate you tomorrow. There is wisdom in silence. There is safety in discretion. There is peace in knowing when to speak and when to be still. Every relationship cannot handle the weight of your wounds. Every person in your life is not equipped to manage your truth. Just because someone is close doesn't mean they are safe. Just because someone listens doesn't mean they understand. And just because they smile doesn't mean they are for you. Learn to discern the difference between curiosity and care. Some people ask about your personal life not to help you, but to hold something over you. Some people will use your honesty as their entertainment. They're not looking to lift you, they're looking to label you. They're not interested in helping you heal. They're only interested in having information they can control. When you speak what is sacred to people who are superficial, you are throwing treasure into a fire, and what is burned cannot be recovered. Words once spoken become seeds, and when planted in the wrong soil, they grow into weeds that can choke your future. That's why some delays in your life are not spiritual attacks. They're the consequences of careless communication. You told the wrong person your dream. You opened up to someone who had no maturity. You gave someone access to a room they were never meant to enter. And now you're wondering why your peace feels disturbed, why your vision feels delayed, why your name is being tossed around like gossip at a table you were never seated at. You must realize that personal doesn't mean secret. It means protected. The private parts of your life are not for hiding. They are for nurturing. A seed grows underground before it breaks through the soil. It is protected from the eyes of others because exposure too early would kill it. You wouldn't dig up a seed every day to check its progress and expect it to grow. Yet we do the same thing with our lives. We share every detail, every thought, every struggle, every success before the foundation is even formed. Then we wonder why we keep getting uprooted. Some people need to lose access to your soil, not because you hate them, but because they keep stepping on what you're trying to grow. The people who deserve access to your personal life are not the loudest. They're not the most persistent. They are the ones who have proven that your pain is safe with them, that your process is not too heavy for them, that your silence will not make them insecure, and your struggle will not make them superior. They are the ones who know how to pray with you, not prey on you. They carry your secrets like sacred scrolls, not social currency. When you find these people, honor them. But even then, remember this: trust is earned in layers. Even with the right people, wisdom tells you to release what is private over time, not all at once. The heart is a vault, and you don't give the key to someone who hasn't been tested by time. Sometimes we overshare because we're hungry for connection, but connection without discernment is danger. There are people who connect with you not because they love you, but because they want to study you, they want to figure you out, they want to dissect you, they want to find your soft spot, your blind spot, your breaking point. So when the time comes, they can use your own words as weapons. You thought you were being vulnerable, but you were being scouted. You thought it was a friendship, but it was an investigation. And now your own story has become a story someone else tells without your permission. The world doesn't need to know how you feel every day. The world doesn't need access to your every struggle. You can be authentic without being exposed. You can be open without being uncovered. You don't owe anyone your scars. You don't owe them your past. You don't owe them your pain. The only one who truly deserves every detail of your personal life is the one who gave you that life in the first place. Everyone else should receive access according to wisdom, maturity, and spiritual alignment. Your voice is powerful, but silence can be even more powerful when it's chosen. Every wise person in history learned this one truth: you do not speak everything you know, and you do not share everything you feel, because your mouth can sabotage your destiny faster than any enemy can. Loose lips don't just sink ships, they sink calling. You must be trained in the discipline of restraint. Not everything deserves a response. Not everyone deserves your clarity. Not every battle deserves your strategy. Some moments require you to protect your peace, even from people you love, especially from people you trust, too quickly. There is power in mystery. There is strength in being misunderstood. When it protects your process, stop explaining your silence. Stop defending your boundaries. Stop trying to convince people that your privacy is not arrogance, it's stewardship. The anointing on your life, the favor on your name, the weight of your calling, these things require protection, and protection starts with your tongue. Every time you choose silence over explanation, you're building spiritual muscle. Every time you withhold what you're feeling and instead process it with wisdom, you're growing. Maturity is measured not by how much you say, but by how well you manage what. Privacy is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is not hiding. It is honoring. Privacy protects purpose. Everything that has purpose requires process, and every process needs to be protected. Purpose is not nurtured in public opinion. It is developed in personal conviction. When you allow too many voices into your private spaces, you weaken the clarity of your own. Too many perspectives dilute vision. Too many opinions create inner confusion. The greatest battles of purpose are not fought in the open. They are fought in the unseen places, where silence and stillness are your greatest allies. It is in these quiet rooms that purpose is sharpened. It is in the silence of isolation that clarity speaks. But when you take what should be sacred and feed it to spectators, you lose more than your privacy. You lose your power. The reason your life feels cluttered isn't because you're doing too much. It's because too many people are sitting in rooms they were never invited to. They have opinions about chapters they were never meant to read. They are forming conclusions about a process they do not understand. And the truth is, they never had the spiritual right to be included in your personal narrative. But you gave them a seat. You let them in. You handed over details of your life that was still in development. You let people watch the construction before the foundation was laid, and now you're left managing a crowd that was never supposed to be there in the first place. There is nothing wrong with keeping your life private. In fact, it is the wisest way to move. People can only attack what they see. They can only sabotage what they know, and they can only judge what they are aware of. If they don't know, they can't touch it. That's why many of your battles began the moment you started broadcasting your business. You were fine when your goals were between you and God. You were strong when your ideas lived in the safety of your spirit. But the moment you shared them with untested ears, you gave birth to resistance that was never supposed to exist. The moment your vision became a topic of conversation, it also became a target. There's a reason locks were invented. There's a reason passwords exist. There's a reason vaults are designed with codes. It's not because what's inside is dangerous. It's because what's inside is valuable. And you don't hand over value to just anyone. You don't put treasure in a plastic bag. You don't leave diamonds out in the open. You protect what matters. Your personal life is no different. It is a vault of memories, motives, miracles, and movements that are still unfolding. And when you let people in before they are proven, you're handing out keys to rooms they were never qualified to enter. Purpose has a pace, and that pace is easily disrupted when too many people are walking alongside you who have not been assigned to your path. Some will slow you down with comparison, others will speed you up with pressure, and a few will pull you off course altogether. That's why privacy is not just protection, it is direction. When you preserve the private areas of your life, you stay aligned with the voice that matters most. You are not moved by trends, not shaken by critics, not seduced by applause, because your compass is internal, not external. You don't need validation when you're rooted in vision. You don't need permission when you're walking in purpose. But you do need to protect the process. There are seasons of your life that are meant to be hidden, not because they're dark, but because they're delicate. Like a caterpillar in the cocoon, the transformation happens in silence. There is nothing attractive about the process, but the result is beautiful. However, if you open the cocoon too soon, the wings never form, the flight never happens, the purpose never emerges. And the same is true for you. You're trying to explain what's still in process. You're trying to prove what hasn't even matured. And the more you talk about it, the more fragile it becomes. What needs nurturing becomes exposed to judgment, doubt and fear, not because it isn't real, but because it isn't ready. When God begins something in your life, He does it quietly. He doesn't announce your potential to the world. He speaks it to you in the stillness of the night, and then He watches to see how you manage it. Do you guard it or gossip about it? Do you protect it or parade it? Do you water it or wear it like a badge? Because your ability to fulfill purpose is directly tied to your ability to preserve the process. Some people will never see the fullness of their destiny, not because they lack talent, but because they lack privacy. They let too many people speak into a space that should have only been inhabited by vision, wisdom, and divine instruction. The challenge of privacy is that it requires trust, not in people but in timing. Can you sit with your own process long enough to let it mature before you share it? Can you walk through a valley without posting a map of your location? Can you struggle without broadcasting your pain? Can you build without validation? This is where growth happens. This is where real maturity is born. When you don't need others to confirm your path, because you've already heard it in your spirit. You don't need to tell them who you're becoming, because the fruit will speak for itself. Your personal life should be a garden, not a public square. A place where seeds grow, where roots deepen, where storms are weathered in silence. And when the time is right, the fruit will show, the result will speak, the purpose will manifest. But only if you guard the process, only if you preserve your privacy, only if you learn to let your life speak, not your lips. The most dangerous listener in your life is not your enemy. It is a friend who does not understand purpose. Not everyone who smiles with you can handle the weight of your vulnerability. Not everyone you call close has the capacity to carry your truth without misusing it. When you expose your private life to those who lack maturity, you are giving sensitive treasures to minds that interpret through the lens of insecurity, jealousy, or ignorance. And when someone hears your truth through the wrong filter, they will twist it into a version that fits their limitation, not your intention. The tragedy is not in being alone. The tragedy is in surrounding yourself with people who don't discern who you really are. Many suffer in relationships, friendships, and communities, not because they are too quiet, but because they speak too freely to the wrong audience. You don't cast pearls before swine, not because the pearls aren't valuable, but because the swine don't understand the value. The same principle applies to your personal life. Sharing with someone who is unprepared is like giving a newborn a sword. They might use it, but not for your defense. This is why some people used your story as a conversation starter. This is why they turned your struggle into their entertainment. They didn't mean to harm you, but they weren't built to protect you either. Their hearts were too shallow, their loyalty was too weak, their perspective was too narrow, and you gave them access to details they were never equipped to honor. You handed over parts of your soul, thinking you were being authentic, but they were simply being curious. And the difference between curiosity and care is depth. Curiosity wants information, care wants to protect. And in a world that is addicted to gossip and attention, your transparency can become someone else's spotlight. There is a price to being open in a closed-hearted world. You will find that the more you share, the more you must recover. Not because sharing is wrong, but because the receiver was wrong. There are people who can take your wounds and help you heal, and then there are people who take your wounds and show them off like trophies. There are people who use what you share to elevate their own position, to feel superior, or to manipulate. And this is why wisdom demands restraint. Self-control is not emotional coldness, it is spiritual strength. The wise do not share everything they know. The strong do not display everything they feel. The mature do not reveal everything they plan. It is not secrecy, it is strategy. When you don't know someone's motive, keep your mouth closed. When you're unsure of their capacity, keep your heart guarded. You are not obligated to disclose your journey to people who were never meant to walk it with you. There are parts of your life that belong to sacred spaces, conversations with God, quiet moments of reflection, journals never meant to be read by others. There are ideas still incubating, pain still being processed, dreams still being clarified. When you let others in too soon, they might define something that was still forming. And once someone defines you incorrectly, they will treat you according to that false definition. Your peace is too expensive to be sacrificed for emotional release. Your destiny is too valuable to be compromised by careless speech. Just because someone asks, doesn't mean they are qualified to receive. Just because they listen, doesn't mean they understand. Some people are receivers of noise, not stewards of wisdom. They remember what you say, not to protect it, but to use it when the moment is convenient. They store your secrets like tools in a drawer, ready to be pulled out when needed, not because they care, but because it benefits them. And you become shocked later, realizing that the words you whispered were echoed in places you never entered. That's why a guarded life is not a lonely life, it is a focused life. When you decide to protect your story, you are not isolating yourself. You are investing in yourself. You are choosing peace over drama, clarity over confusion, dignity over disclosure. And while the world applauds over sharing in emotional vulnerability without wisdom, the truly purposeful know when to speak and when to be silent. They know that revelation without timing becomes self-sabotage. They understand that silence is not emptiness, it is authority. You owe no one an explanation of your growth. You do not need to validate your transformation to people who are not evolving. You do not need to explain your decisions to individuals who never understood your reasons. Your life is not a press release. It is a masterpiece in the making, and masterpieces are revealed, not rushed. They are crafted in obscurity and unveiled at the right moment, when the environment is right and the crowd is ready. Until then, your business is your business. Your struggles are your training ground. Your silence is your shelter. And the greatest strength you will ever carry is the strength to walk your journey, knowing you are seen by the only one who matters. And that is enough. Your value is directly connected to what you protect. In a world obsessed with transparency, there is a forgotten wisdom. Privacy is power. Not because hiding is noble, but because protection is necessary. The more valuable a thing is, the more security surrounds it. You will never see the crown jewels left in the open, because their worth demands preservation. In the same way, your life, your emotions, your plans, your personal history must be treated like treasure. Not everything should be spoken. Not everything should be shared. Silence is not always suppression. Great men and women through history learned the art of discretion. They shared when the season was right. They revealed when the impact was ready. They understood that there are things that must be protected, not because they are shameful, but because they are sacred. The early stages of purpose are fragile, like a seed in the ground. Too much attention, too many voices, too much exposure, and that seed never gets the chance to take root. That is why some of your goals haven't grown. You let too many opinions into the soil. You revealed a dream to someone who didn't even believe in themselves. It means intimacy with your destiny. It means understanding that some things grow better in the dark. Some plans need privacy. Some breakthroughs need quiet. And wisdom knows when to speak and when to stay still. There is a time to testify, and there is a time to build in silence. When you speak too soon, you invite critics into a process they were never meant to witness. And critics never build.